So essentially the investment for this year, given the increased headcount and the format changes and all that, will be 10,000 plus the 2,500 basically sponsorship of an attendee. What are your thoughts on that? In exactly 3 hours and 58 minutes, I'm about to break all of my own rules by pitching a $12,500 event sponsorship live on camera. If this goes wrong, I might have to cut our catering budget for sponsor games in half. But that is not an option because sponsor games must have even better food than we had last year. Now, I've got 3 strategies that are either gonna make or break this call, and you're about to see exactly how each one plays out in real time.
It's time to talk about the game plan. Strategy number 1 is the direction shift. They're working on something really big. Sounds like mission critical to their company. See, most people would just jump straight into their pitch. They would say, this is why you should sponsor me. No, they just gave you a gold nugget. You need to pull that thread. So instead of pitching them first, I'm gonna ask them what their goals are. I'm gonna ask them things like, tell me more about this new product direction. Are you pivoting the entire company to focus on this main thing? How are you thinking about promotions and launch strategy in 2026? So here's the thing. I think that this brand is probably in a transition period, which makes allocating budgets for an event like ours perhaps a bit tricky. But understanding that and being empathetic to that is how you become one of their prized partners, not just a commodity. Now, strategy number 2 is the feedback loop. Now, here's what most people don't do. Talk about what worked from last year and what didn't. So at our 2025 event, we did not have a good booth strategy. The event space is not super large, and yet we did have some tables kind of along the perimeter of the room where we said to the sponsors, hey, you can put a tablecloth here, you can put some of your swag there, kind of postcards if people want to take stuff away. But honestly, no one really ever went over to those tables, and I know that the sponsors noticed that. But there was a huge highlight because RJ from their team shared with me that when I shouted them out from the stage, which is not something that I was planning to do intentionally, that was a huge win for them. And they just got to interact with the attendees a lot, going to meals and going to dinners. It was pretty awesome. Now, if you're thinking, why would I even bring up mixed results? Look, if there is an elephant in the room, I guarantee you they're thinking about it. So you should be the one to bring it up, control that narrative. And this is gonna be the thing that builds trust, especially since I'm gonna ask for more money because trust is everything in high stakes negotiations. Now, for strategy number 3, I'm calling it the future vision, which is not nothing. Frankly, I have some really big goals for sponsor games. I think it has the potential to impact many, many more creators and entrepreneurs. And so we're doubling the attendee size. But more importantly, we have so much momentum from last year. Last year, we didn't have any hype video. We had no photos. People had no idea what to expect. I was basically just trust me, it's going to be a great event. But this year, we have so many testimonials from people who attended, testimonials from sponsors who sponsored the event, and we're making it even more all-inclusive. Last year, people didn't even realize that we were going to be catering meals to the degree that we did for lunches and for snacks and things like that. But this year, we're catering all the meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Our goal, sincerely, is for people to spend the least amount of money, once they land and they get to the event, to spend the least amount of money possible.
The thing is, most creators pitch what they want to sell, but I'm about to do something completely different. So in 3 hours and 57 minutes now, this call starts. Let's see if breaking my own rules pays off. I almost never advise people to pitch live on a call because I think it just adds unnecessary pressure. Instead, if you can take your time, think more deeply about what you're actually gonna pitch them, figure out, what types of packages do you wanna put in front of them, what deliverables will be in each package. Maybe you need some time to hire me and my team of sponsorship coaches to help you figure out how much to charge. And then you can get back to them with a bespoke custom proposal. But here's what's different about this situation. Number 1, they already told me that they have a huge product that they're working on that's really tightly under wraps. So they're in a phase of transition. And the second is that I already have a really good rapport with them, and I have a feeling that they want to lock things in ASAP. So I could play it safe. I could have a nice call with them, see how everything's going, and then follow up with a proposal later on. Or I could bet on myself, film everything, risk it all, and show them exactly why Sponsor Games 2026 is going to be completely different. Now, what am I going to charge them? It's going to be 10 grand to sponsor the event, so $2,500 more than last year, and an additional $2,500 commitment to sponsor an attendee. So someone is actually going to leave. An attendee is going to leave Sponsor Games with a deal in hand funded by this sponsor. Y'all, this call is happening imminently. I need to go get ready. Wish me luck. All right. she's dialing in now.
Diani, I'm so thrilled to get to reconnect with you. It's been a minute since Sponsor Games wrapped, but it sounds like y'all are up to some big things over at Paperform.
Yeah, I mean, what's new? But also, it's so good to catch up with you. Like you've just said, there's always big things happening for us. So I'm so curious to see now what's happening with Sponsor Games. The last Sponsor Games was the inaugural event. And so I'm really interested to see what your learnings are and what your plans are for the next event.
Oh man, we've got lots of exciting things to share, but honestly, I would kind of love to just first start off learning a bit more about some of the cool stuff that y'all are working on. I know, we had focused on Paperform and Paper Sign for Sponsor Games in 2025, but it sounds like you guys are like tinkering with some new software programs, extensions to the product suite. Like, if you can share, would love to hear about like what the direction is headed into next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So last time we talked within the context of Sponsor Games, especially, we had some fantastic AI updates and improvements, like a lot of companies do, things that we consider to be genuinely helpful rather than just slapping on AI. So AI form creation, AI insights into reporting, all those sorts of things. One thing that we've always wanted to do with Paperform is to move it from being just forms into a bigger suite of products that work together. That's just the natural progression of Paperform. When you start with forms, by far and away, the number one thing that our users ask for that supports Paperform is workflows. And traditionally, and we love working with Zapier and Make, but now we're in a position where we could build something really, really powerful that's very cost effective, that can do most of the work for you, but you still are able to curate and control workflows as well, rather than just being one or the other. So we're really excited to be launching what we're calling Stepper soon, which is AI native workflows that work beautifully with Paperform and Paper Sign, but then of course a whole bunch of other apps as well.
So the first thing that I picked up on is that Diani and her team are being very measured with how they're approaching AI. I think we're living through a very unique time right now in that every brand, every company is trying to figure out like, what is our AI strategy, right? And so not only are they thinking, how do we introduce this into our product development, into our software, but how do we market this? How do we let new customers know about our AI features? How do we let our existing customers know? It's like a really important time.
The feeling that I have in my gut as a founder is very similar to when we launched Paperform. So our other products, they've been great, they've done well, but there's something about Stepper that feels, you can tell that there's something really fantastic about this product. It's very innovative, and for the first time we'll be able to offer a free plan, which we haven't done in the past, being bootstrapped. So we're really excited about that.
If you ever hear someone from a brand talk like this, like, I've got this gut feeling, I've got this conviction that this product is going to be a game changer, this is a signal that they may be willing to invest in more awareness-focused goals versus conversion-focused. Conversion-focused is when you've got the product dialed in. You know your marketing funnel. You know how much you need to spend. But awareness, that's different. The metrics are squishier. We just want to spread the word. We want to get people excited about this.
The other thing I wanted to just touch on and just kind of clarify, this is something from our earliest conversations about Sponsor Games. Y'all seem to be very intentional about not rushing to add AI, just slap AI into the product. Say more about why you feel that was important to be measured and slow as you were kind of developing this out, and how that kind of ties into your ethos as a company.
The onset of AI and the impact on SaaS and everything was so and is so huge, significant, and fast, rapid, that it would be really easy to react to it and not leverage it properly, and particularly to respond to a fear of missing out as a company, catching that wave. I probably felt that more than my co-founder, also husband, Dean, who is, he's our CTO. I mean, he's our product guy. He's the inventor. He makes the products, and he's very, very wise, and I think can see where things are headed very well, and said, we need to make sure that we don't rush into this, because this has the potential to be a bubble where we build something where we're hitting the marks of AI and it looks really great, but is it actually helping our customers?
If someone hacked your Instagram or YouTube account tomorrow, how screwed would you be? Really think about it for a second. You're in the middle of a 10K deal, the brand needs final approval, you go to upload the content, and your account is locked. The brand's blowing up your email, you're panicking, you're trying to recover your account, but by the time you get back in, or if you get back in, the campaign's already closed. The deal's dead, and your reputation just went out the window. I know it sounds ridiculous, but considering that millions of login credentials get exposed to hackers every single year, it's not really something that you should take lightly. And that's why I'm a huge fan of today's sponsor, Bitdefender, the first ever security platform built for keeping creators safe online. They monitor your accounts 24/7, flag phishing emails automatically, and protect your login credentials across all of your devices. And if something bad does happen, Bitdefender holds your hand through the entire recovery process. And it costs just a few cents a day too, which I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty sick deal for what they do. So you can click the link below to get started with Bitdefender or visit creatorwizard.com/Bitdefender. Out of curiosity, like how, given that you are somewhat, I feel like in maybe kind of a transitionary phase where you obviously you have a lot of different products and you're kind of juggling focus, I'm imagining internally in terms of figuring out like where the team should be pointing their attention. How are you thinking about your marketing strategy going into next year?
Oh, we've completely revamped that. Marketing, I have to say, a few years ago, someone asked me what has been, your biggest mistakes or regrets at Pay-Per-Form. And at the time, I think there was so much going on as well. I was just like, I can't think of anything really big that I would change. Very different now. Marketing is something that I have much more clarity on. Dean and I, it was probably what we perceived as our weak spot when we launched Pay-Per-Form. So I'm really good with operations, running the business. Dean's, I always joke, he's the talent and I'm the manager, right? The first 2 years of growth, which, were phenomenal, we started hiring a growth team and we did, the classic SaaS. Let's hire the full growth team, content, this person on content, this person on life cycle. And it was very compartmentalized and really actually disjointed our team. The strength of our team was that the same people that are doing customer success, that are building products, are working incredibly close together. And we always, from the start, our two strong points were SEO and word of mouth referral. And so this year, after a lot of years of trying different, we tried a few different structures for the growth team to make it work. We tried really hard. Anyway, we cut our growth team, which was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And that's not a fun conversation to have, but I think it's an important one. We just realized that those roles weren't appropriate for product-led SaaS. The data, was showing that all of their hard work was not paying off and that these other things that we'd neglected were still working really well.
This was a pretty cool admission, I think. Diani is saying, hey, my husband, my co-founder, he's great at engineering. I'm great at operations. Marketing, not really our strong suit. We've dabbled with it, right? We've dabbled with a growth team. Didn't really work out. And this is where I'm going to lean into my own expertise as a marketer. I'm a creator. I've worked with lots of different brands. And so always be listening to how you can provide additional value to these brands beyond just posting on your platforms.
And so we have a lot of clarity now in 2025 and steering back towards that much more heavily. Of course, we're still working on SEO and by extension GEO, so making sure AI recommendations are in place. But the thing is, if you have a really good natural relationship with your users, with your customers, then all of the outworkings of that, the resources, the case studies, the way that you advertise completely hinges on that relationship. It all becomes much, much easier.
Here's another little nugget. She mentioned SEO has been very successful for them. And also they're thinking about GEO, which is generative engine optimization. So how can you get ranked number one by ChatGPT when people are searching for solutions? Now you might be thinking, I don't know how to do that. Okay, great. Time to start learning about this stuff.
But I'm just curious from your perspective, would love to hear your thoughts of how the event went down. Obviously, RJ from your team was in attendance. I have some kind of qualitative and quantitative things I'd love to share with you, but from where you were sitting, what were your thoughts?
Trust was really important. What I've found, particularly with events and sponsorship, is that we've worked with some really big companies and being present at their events, and the impact has been really minimal. When you're running a business, ROI has to be at the heart of everything that you do, and it's the responsibility of the sponsor to be very clear about what is the return on investment that they're looking for. I think one of the hardest things for you in pitching a sponsorship is where there's not clarity from the sponsor on what that is. And the problem with that, which I'm sure that you're aware of, is that then the expectations are just fluid throughout the relationship, and there's much more room for people to be upset about things that you don't have control over.
I wish every brand thought like this. How much easier would it be to collaborate with a brand or a company if you had crystal clear expectations from the jump?
And Sarah Loretta was pivotal in that because we had a relationship with her. So don't ever underestimate the power of the relationship that you have with someone way before you get to any point where you're pitching for them. And her ability to introduce us to you and then us getting to know you and then you continuing to have integrity in what you're doing really helped us make a decision that, it's always a risk in business doing any kind of marketing or sponsorship, but it definitely, reduced the risk.
I low-key was tearing up inside when she said this because integrity is like one of the most important things for me in life and in business. And so to hear that may have been the thing that got the deal over the finish line was just like, right here, hit right here.
First of all, you genuinely wanted to know what we wanted to get out of it. That was very clearly at the fore of your intention in our initial meeting. What do you want to get at? Here's what we're doing. What do you see as the opportunities? So there was a customization rather than just sending us a deck that had these are the packages that was very different to what we'd experienced before.
I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. Do you hear how much D&E valued getting a custom bespoke recommendation from us? Not the boilerplate proposal. No, it was customized to what they were trying to accomplish. All right, now I'm going to bring up the direction shift.
When we had sent over the post-campaign report to y'all after the event, so just like, we had, just to summarize, like the things that we did with you was, we did quite a bit of email promotion. Obviously, you had a physical presence there. RJ from your team was had a big presence there. He was on the sponsor tank. He was a judge on the tank during the final pitch competition or the sponsor competition. There were some kind of bonus assets also. So like I filmed an interview with RJ and there was photos and kind of short form assets that we had sent over. We had some tabling where there was some paper form swag and y'all were so kind to provide sweatshirts to everyone. We were doing some kind of chatting internally as a team, and the tabling is something that came up as like I'm not sure how necessarily valuable that was given the size of the venue, given the number of attendees. It's not like there was like someone manning the booth or the table or whatever. And so from your perspective, like, do you value tabling or booths, or like, I don't know, what's your perspective on that?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It depends on size. If we're dealing with a really, really large event, it can be the best way to, I guess, manage distribution of brand, exposure of brand. If it's a smaller event, then relationship is possible and it's a much higher priority for us. That's why we got to a point where we were like, hey, rather than tabling, it would be better if literally you could get up and walk around and talk to people. And that was part of our ROI. So our goal with sponsor games wasn't subscriptions. It wasn't to see revenue immediately come through the door. We wanted to see Paperform and Papersign in the hands of creators who were potentially influencers and could speak to their communities, but we wanted to talk to them about that and that experience. And it was phenomenal. Like RJ, the value that he got from sitting down and standing up, walking around, eating with, hanging out with creators and learning what they need, where their communities are, what they're about, and what Paperform and Papersign can do for them. That was phenomenal. Worth every penny. Yeah.
Now it's time for the feedback loop.
I'm so thrilled to hear that. And like you mentioned, I don't know how feasible it is as scale to like really integrate sponsors and the brands into the programming. That is exactly what we're trying to do even more for the, next year and beyond, because one thing that we realize is like a big value proposition of coming to this event is like getting to rub shoulders with the sponsors. Like we didn't quite realize how much people would value hanging out with RJ, hanging out with, Matt from Lulu, and hanging out from some of the other sponsors. And so that is exactly what we're planning for 2026, is building this concerted effort to like, hey, let's go back, let's learn about the sponsor, let's flex some of these, skills that we learned in terms of deep listening and hearing what the brand's trying to accomplish. And so I'm wondering, is that something that like resonates with you?
Really, I think one of the unique things that you have and that you created in that first event was an ability to disarm people and allow them to engage. So whatever that looks like in 2026, I'm not sure. It'll depend on your head count. It's actually the biggest thing I had coming into this conversation is how different is the logistics of sponsor games for 2026, particularly in terms of number of attendees, because that will impact the way that those relationships are built.
And now we're going to shift to the future vision of sponsor games.
Our plan for 2026 is to double the headcount. So we're going to cap it at 75 this year. So we've thought long and hard about, the feasibility of continuing the same programming structure, but doubling the attendees. And so that's something we're going to do. The other thing we're going to do is we're going even further down the road of making it as kind of all-inclusive as possible. So we really went all out on catering for like food and snacks and all that. But we're going to be catering all the meals now for sponsor games 2026. So the goal is like, you spend the least amount of money. Like the moment you walk in the doors, like we don't really want you to spend any money. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, we're really going to be snacks. Like we're going to be really going all out. And then, as I mentioned, like really in a concerted way, trying to integrate our sponsors into the programming as well. And this leads me to the next thing I wanted to mention, which was that one thing that we would really love to be a part of a sponsorship of sponsor games moving forward is a financial commitment from our sponsors to potentially sponsor an attendee at the event. So meaning one of the cool, like, kind of attractions of coming to the event is like, hey, you could walk away with a brand deal with Paperform at like by the time the event is over. And so rather than like us getting the cash, basically like a portion of that would be carved out to basically you know, if you find a Doc Williams, for example, at the event and you kind of, you know, shake hands on, maybe there's like a little one pager, like letter of intent kind of thing of like, hey, we'd love to collaborate here. And it's going to be worth $2,500 or something like that. Right.
Did you see how her face lit up when I mentioned this sponsorship of an attendee idea? Holy cow. I think there's something to this.
Fantastic. I mean, that's right in the pocket of what we're looking for. As I said, like what we're really looking for is a relationship, building a relationship with that community and then seeing where that can lead. We already had a whole bunch of conversations from sponsor games. I should say RJ had them. We're now in a position where, you know, there are two relationships there that are moving into a paid agreement, which is really exciting. We would love to come to sponsor games and be able to say, okay, there's more opportunity to work with this community and find new influencers and creators. It's funny when you said that, there was actually an emotional response from me that I wasn't expecting. I was like, oh, this is not personal, but there's an impact there that you can see as a sponsor, that there's a buy-in that's way greater than a money value and a money return.
Well, man, you get me goosebumps over here, like knowing that you got goosebumps. Like I'm so thrilled to hear that. So essentially, the investment for this year, given the increased headcount and the formatting, the format changes and all that, will be $10,000 plus the $2,500 basically sponsorship of an attendee. So basically, from your perspective, it would be a $12,500 obligation. And so what are your thoughts on that?
I think that it hinges on what we decide in terms of our involvement. So where we found some of the most value last time was being able to be involved in the games and to provide product for that, and to see people having the aha moment for our product and debriefing on that, particularly if we're then moving from that to a relationship with them, a creator relationship. That's the starting point for that, and then being able to create meaningful content for us and us to be able to see that if they get it.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. I didn't know what to think here. I was like, is this a yes? Is this a no? It sounds like a good sign, but it depends on how they'd be integrated and if they could get their product in the hands of the attendees. What do I do with this?
I guess the question is, do you have any ideas about what the games will actually be at this point? So when we came on board the first time, you had a clear idea of what, you know, how paper sign could be used in a game. Do you have any ideas about what that could look like?
So this is totally fair. She just wants more clarity on how are the games going to be different? How is the event going to be different since we're doubling headcount? Are we going to be changing the programming since we're adding other elements like the brand speed dating and so on? She just wants to see it all laid out.
Yeah. So to me, I think what we had done last year is we had integrated, for example, paper sign into the contract game as like one of the quiz at the end of that game, like included paper sign in one of the answers. Is like a tool that you could use to memorialize some of these agreements that you're signing with sponsors. But in terms of, you know, getting the tool or being able to showcase the tool, I think that this idea about the kind of speed dating, like get to know the sponsor thing that we're integrating into the event outside of the games themselves could absolutely be an opportunity to showcase Stepper or some of these other tools in more detail. You know, if whether it's you or RJ who comes could have their laptop out and kind of chat through the tool as they're getting to know creators as part of this, you know, concerted networking thing.
And then I mean, using that as part of a game as well, or, you know, part of a challenge. I'm not sure how you refer to it.
Yeah, I think that we should talk about it. I mean, in terms of how, from our standpoint, I think would love to get our hands on the tool to kind of play around with it more, because maybe there's going to be some creative ideas of how we could integrate it into the event more deeply that I just haven't thought of yet because I haven't played with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
it will be. It's that step back from, you use paper form, use paper sign. So,
Right.
imagine something that automatically builds a workflow where you're getting client information and then it automatically sends out a contract and so on and so forth. If I had to nutshell it, it's what we're looking for as part of this sponsorship is an opportunity to equip your attendees with tools that we truly believe will help them. And that will be the foundation then of the relationship that we may have with them as content creators. It's something that we'd be much less likely to move ahead with a sponsorship if that piece of the puzzle isn't there. It's much harder, I think, for us to find the value in brand and marketing and relationship. That said, the price point of $12,500 I think is very reasonable. If the input from us and the scope is the same as last time and we double the head count and available audience to us and then we refine what we've been doing, I think that's quite reasonable, yeah.
So is that a yes, Diani?
Oh, it's that a yes. I'll get back to you. All options are open to me.
Okay, so I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing to just straight up point blank ask her like, hey, is that a yes? I was thinking it. I'm not a shy person. Sometimes I feel like you just gotta kind of shoot your shot and see what they say. Frankly, what I was hoping to get out of that direct question was, what do you need from me? What do you need to see to feel comfortable getting to a yes?
Honestly, it's a highly likely. It's where we know you, we trust you, we got so much value from in terms of brand marketing and relationships with influencers after that event, and even learning that we already have a huge level of trust and we see the value in this in a very different way to other events. And whether or not that, that last 5% pushing me over the line is going to be the way that that our products are championed.
Well, can't wait to get under the hood of some of the new stuff that you guys are developing, and hopefully we can get this across the finish line if we figure out these final details. I super appreciate it.
Y'all, I didn't get the sponsorship yet. That's what happens sometimes. There can be extremely good vibes. The brand, could have hired you and worked with you before and have been really happy. And then when you try and run it back and do it again, they say, maybe. And that can feel super frustrating, right? Like I really wanted her to say, yes, let's do it right there on the call. But, to her credit, she needed to see more. She needed to see the scope of work. She needed some clarification about how, their brand was going to be represented and integrated into the event. All of those things are totally reasonable. Maybe Deanna needed to chat with her team. Maybe she needed to, think it over to see if that budget that I had proposed, which to be fair was more than we had asked for last year, they need to go back and look at their numbers. So the important takeaway I hope for you is that you cannot give up. You cannot get deflated when the brand doesn't say yes right away. This is a process. Now, if you want to be a fly on the wall for how I pitched a presenting sponsorship for Sponsor Games 2026, make sure to check this one out right here.